The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You've always got time for short time.
Hey, it's Mario Lopez.
David Taylor.
Brent Metcalf. Johnny Hendricks. Tony Ramos. Bubba J.
Mike Golick.
Matthew Modine.
The one and only Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to the one and only Short Time Wrestling Podcast by the often imitated and never duplicated Jason Bryant.
It has been a while. It has been a while, folks. A couple weeks since our last short time. Richard Immel and myself hit up the last of our 3 World Championship previews. Well, the World Championships have come and gone, and Richard and I are actually now sitting in Athens, Greece, preparing for the 2017 Cadet World Championships. Richard's actually about he's 2 floors above, and I am on the second floor here at the President Hotel in Athens. It has been a busy couple weeks. A lot of things to talk about. I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up. I'll do some more updates here from the Cadet World Championships with Team USA and some things floating around the arena. I'm doing the finals broadcast again for United World Wrestling on their channels at unitedworldwrestling.org and on trackwrestling.com. But for the most part, it's just so much. I mean, I've gone from Finland to Paris to Athens. Richard's done the same. He actually just churned out a recent bonus points episode with Kyle Snyder. I'd encourage you to listen to that here on the Matt Talk Podcast Network. But so since then, we saw one of the greatest performances in American wrestling history. 6 medals, 8 weight classes in the men's freestyle. We saw Helen Maroulas just blitzkrieg through and win her 3rd straight World or Olympic Championship on the women's side. Becca Leathers with a medal, Allie Reagan with the silver. And then Greco, a lot of work needs to be done there with Greco-Roman. Some flashes of things to come, maybe from Mason Manville and, of course, Tracy Hancock and Kamal Bey, a junior world champ. But give a listen to the 5 Point Move podcast here on the Matt Talk Podcast Network. Dennis Hall pulls no punches, and him and Spencer Mango talk with Timmy Hands about the state of Greco-Roman wrestling in this country, what it needs to do. And Dennis Hall is pretty upfront about what he believes needs to be done. So that's a good listen, along with the Kyle Snyder episode. There's a bunch of stuff out there. T-Row and Funky Show, the Inside Trip, the Blood Round. I mean, so many podcasts recapping all the action. So some of the things that stood out to me, and a lot of these aren't performance-based, but I'm going to start giving the French a high five because, as Americans, we like to poke fun at the French a little bit because, just historically, it's like, I don't know, we give up, just stupid jokes. I mean, but let's just say that the organizational committee there with the French Wrestling Federation working with United World Wrestling over there in Paris was phenomenal. Almost to a point like the security was so good, it was frustrating because, a lot of wrestling people were used to going where we want to go. And if we've got an all-access pass, we're used to being able to get all access. So sometimes that didn't exactly work in our favor. But as the announcer, I got to have the unique opportunity to be the soundtrack for one of the greatest performances in American wrestling history with the men's freestyle team. Captivating audiences around the country with Kyle Snyder beating Abdul Rashid Sadalayev. Of course, that captivated the world. Jordan Burroughs showing that he just had one bad day last year in Rio, coming back winning a 5th World or Olympic Championship, 4 World Championships, an Olympic title. This guy's not even 30 yet, so let's just remember that we're in the midst of some greatness there. Thomas Gilman made a really solid run. James Green made another solid run to the finals. There's 4 of the medals right there. Nick Gwizdowski winning a bronze medal. There's 5. And who are we forgetting? Oh, yeah, Jaden Cox, which ended up being one of the more, viral type of discussions with his bronze medal and some people within the U.S. national team not liking that so much. I'm not going to really go crazy off the rails on the David Taylor thing too much because it's been said some people have different positions on it. I actually gave my position on it on the mat with Kyle Klingman. You can listen to that show on the Matt Talk Podcast Network with myself and Dan Gable talked about it. I was not a particular fan of how Mr. Taylor handled this situation, but again, I'm not an athlete, so there's so many different ways to look at that. I can see how people would understand both sides of it. I personally, I didn't care for it, but I'm just one opinion out there. So that being said, great performance from Team USA. The party was great. Had an opportunity to hang out with a lot of people from Team USA that they were spread out all over the place. I was next door at the Novotel, so I didn't get a chance to really see a whole lot of Americans other than Andy Hamilton and Shane Sparks and a couple of photographers, Tony Rotundo, Mark Lundy, Justin Hawk. They were all out pretty much at the same spot. We were eating across the street. Again, also, and if you're friends with us on Facebook or Andy Hamilton, Shane Sparks and I, there's a video floating around about the battle between creme brulee and tiramisu. This was quite a battle to the death, and each night both creme brulee and tiramisu would be defeated. But the question is on what was better. But I know you're not listening to this show to talk about desserts. I mean, if you are, I'm more than willing to talk about desserts and craft beer. Because one of the few things I did as soon as I got home from Paris, before I turned around and came to Athens, was go to the Minnesota State Fair. Got the cheese curds from the Mousetrap inside the food building. Got the corn dog. Got the Kirby Pucker, which is a sour beer, which is phenomenal. And I had a beer flight, so that's where I was at. And also spent plenty of time with my two girls, my wife, who is pretty much sick of international wrestling travel at this moment. As by the end of this trip for the Cadet World Championships, I would have been gone 30 out of 45 days. That doesn't even count Fargo or my 20-year high school reunion, which I left to go and check out. So other than that, it's been a pretty busy summer. I've only been home a couple weekends. Did spend some time at the lake. Still haven't caught any walleye. But back to wrestling. Here at the Cadets, I don't really know what to expect. So a lot of these guys, this is their first time out. We're going to see them make a claim for themselves. This is where we saw Zane Rutherford won a world championship. Haley Augelas won a world championship. We've seen Cadet World Championships from Adam Kuhn. So this is really kind of a breakout moment. And this is also an interesting thing to watch because this is the first real world level event that we're going to do the 2-day weigh-in and we're going to do the 2-day format. So first day, there's going to be no finals. We will go up to the semifinals in one weight class, then we'll come back 4 weight classes, then we'll come back around the next day. Repechage and the opening round of the next weight classes will begin. Then we will finish semifinals from that day and then come back for the finals from the previous day. So with action starting at 10:30 each day, a lot of qualification rounds, and then we get to how it's going to work out. So this is kind of the trial and how they're going to do things next year. We'll have an understanding on how these things work. So keep an eye on UnitedWorldWrestling.org to basically check out all the brackets on the arena and, of course, on TrackWrestling.com. If you're in the United States, most of you are, you'll get redirected to that site. So a couple of the things that have come up in terms of the traffic. I'm trying to go to the travel, rather. I'm trying to go see the Parthenon by the time you listen to this. I may or may not have seen it, the Acropolis, whatever all this ancient, Greek stuff is. Andy Hamilton said he's already seen a couple pictures of like wrestling figures all throughout the gift shops and stuff. So wrestling imagery is at least pretty big here in Athens. One thing I also want to circle back to is before I left, I got on Twitter and I don't really talk about this a whole lot, but I had a ill-fated time as an intern at a rock station back in Virginia, one of the more popular ones. And I was tweeting at them the other day, and sure enough, they go ahead and mention me on the station. So here's that little clip, and just kind of those of you who know me will not be surprised by this story one bit at all. They actually did about a little 3-minute skit talking to me. So here's that from FM 99 back home.
This is Rumble in the Morning on FM 99.
Oh, my God, that's hysterical. 9:33 here on FM 99. On Twitter, we have a Twitter account. It's at Rumble FM 99. And right now, we've been using that to promote. There's an industry publication called Radio Inc., INK. It's a play on Incorporated, but it's INK. It's a magazine about radio, and, of course, now it's digital. And they're doing a survey trying to find out the greatest rock and roll radio stations, like the top 20. They're trying to put together a top 20 of all time, and we're lobbying pretty hard for ourselves because we have a great track record. We've been consistently, atop in the ratings heap and et cetera, right? So anyway, we've been forwarding that around on the link because you have to vote on our Twitter page. And a guy named Jason jumped on there and said that he voted, and he very much appreciated it. And then he went on to say, I got fired as an intern after only 5 hours with Rumble in the Morning almost 20 years ago. Still the best damn rock station in the world. I listen from Minnesota. He lives in Minnesota.
We know who that guy is.
Yeah. Well, Jason wanted to always talk about he had a wrestling website at the time.
Yes.
Because it's 20 years ago. He had a wrestling website, and he wanted to talk about his wrestling website incessantly. during those 5 hours. And finally, Chuck, the intern who used to work here, he had enough.
Yeah, meekest man on earth.
Chuck, the intern?
Showed him the door.
Get the F out.
Without any prompting.
Just got up, said, "You come with me now.
You're done. Yeah.
Get out.
What? Holy
And
smokes.
so I wrote
awesome.
this Jason guy back. Maybe we misjudged, haha. And he wrote, no, I don't think Chuck was eager to handle my daily wrestling updates at 6 a.m.
No.
Turns out that Jason was running one of the biggest wrestling websites in the entire United States.
Oh, the world.
Yeah,
The world.
out of Hampton Roads.
Yeah, and it's not
This kid
WWE. It's like real wrestling.
was every bit, actual competitive wrestling.
okay.
Wrestling.
All right.
Yep.
But, I mean, we have the Virginia Duels, and we have the great tradition of actual competitive wrestling around
Yeah,
here. And he was like this authority, and we just had no clue.
Wow.
We had no clue.
Yeah, and
he was a
interviewed
little too enthusiastic for it because he's just a kid,
We ended up interviewing him last year.
Yeah, that was good.
Like last year around June.
Mhm.
And when we talked to him, he was just getting ready to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because he was going to be the announcer at the Olympics.
Cool.
The wrestling announcer at the Olympics.
So he's
Games.
okay. He's doing okay.
He's working.
Right.
Didn't hurt his career right there. Didn't crush it.
No, he ended up working for the U.S. Olympic wrestling team for many years, and
How cool
now
was
he
that?
travels the world announcing wrestling.
Yeah. So he's got a good gig.
So, yeah. But he
loves it.
He wouldn't shut up about wrestling.
He
that
really
morning.
wouldn't.
And still to this day, he probably doesn't.
No. He's
His entire
as
life
you
is
know, as you
gig.
can see, he's chiming in right now
But
on
super
our
nice guy.
Twitter page. Twitter
That's awesome.
at Rumble FM 99. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Very, very.
So yeah, that was the basically an abbreviated version of my short-lived, ill-fated internship at FM 99. Yeah, and it was just that was just wild. That sometimes I'll tweet at them and they're like, "Oh yeah, we remember you." And then last year Greg Warren was with the interview they alluded to was actually when Greg Warren was on tour last year, and as they said, June of 16, he was at a comedy club in Virginia, and he was talking about wrestling, and then I get a DM from a friend of mine who works at a newspaper back home and says, "Hey, I think they're talking about you on 99." So I go pull up the stream and I listen. And I call in. And I'm like, "Hey, that guy you were talking about, yeah, that's me." So they bring me on with Greg, and we're talking about it. So that was it was one of the funny things about how all this stuff came full circle. Because I lasted one morning show with FM 99. Then it was Tommy and Rumble. Now it's just Rumble in the morning. But still one of the greatest morning shows. I say it's better than John Boy and Billy and all those other shows that are out there. So even though they did dump me unceremoniously when I was 19 years old, so it was about 18 years ago. I'm 38, so. Actually, my math is terrible. So 19 years ago, I was an intern. It was, it was a very interesting time in my life. But yeah, still talking wrestling and all that stuff there. So I know you didn't chime in to hear about old glory days or lack thereof, but that's kind of what's going on right now. I will be doing some updates throughout the course of the tournament because I got a lot more time here. And being the PA announcer in Paris, I did not have a chance to really do anything other than say a lot of foreign names and get things as best pronounced as I could. I came home with a lot of interesting European stuff musically that I'm going to probably drop into to my announcing and whether or not I do music at certain places. But yeah, didn't realize that some of these songs were actually on albums that I had already owned and had never actually gotten all the way through them. So that being said, this is just more or less a mini episode update to let you know that Richard, Andy, and I are here in Greece. We'll be doing some interviews, and I don't know if we'll be sitting around a couch in Finland like the last time we did doing a Junior Worlds recap of the men's freestyle team, which won a world championship. And let's see if the cadets can step up, if you're an American fan, to go 3 for 3 in terms of men's freestyle. We got the junior title, got the senior title. Let's see what the cadets can do. That's all I got right now. I'd like to thank you for spending your time with me, even though this was a short one, because you've always got time for short time. No jokes, Blood Round. No jokes.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.